Thank you. Well, greetings and welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all. First, my apologies for the technical difficulties at our last meeting. I apologize for those challenges. They were entirely on my end here at Dunstan Hall, but Denise was kind enough to be very, very helpful in getting all that resolved. And I am great to, it's great to join you today in the virtual arena and not just by phone. So wonderful to see you. Welcome. And again, thank you for participating on this exciting and this important task force. My other apology to all of you is that in the confusion over my technical difficulties, I was completely remiss in not allowing everybody to introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves at the outset. Perhaps I was focused too much on the official public meeting announcements I had to make. So I apologize for that. But what I wanted to do first off was to correct that deficiency and give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves, share with the rest of the group your affiliation, and just a minute or two about yourself and why perhaps you're excited about being part of this initiative. And I will just work down the list that I see on my participant list.
Scott, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We have to go through those electronic meeting motions each time we have a meeting.
Right.
I apologize.
I can't have people introduce themselves first. I need to read this first.
Yes, I think so.
All right. All right. All right. Are you all ready? Here we go. I will read everything I'm supposed to read. Conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance. This board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record. It's a bit cumbersome, so I ask you in advance for your patience. First, because each member of the board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I am going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to assure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member. So I will go first. My name is Scott Stroh. I am joining you from Mason Neck, Virginia. So Denise, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, Denise Dressel, and I'm joining you from Prince William Haymarket.
All right, George.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm George Albert. I'm calling in from Centerville, Virginia.
Gretchen.
Hi, Gretchen Bulova from Fairfax.
Julie.
Hi, Julie Lomaty from Mount Vernon, Virginia.
Laura Wickstead, City of Fairfax.
Liz.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Maurer. I am calling in today from Bellevue, Virginia.
Thank you. Mary.
Mary Lipsey from Springfield, Virginia.
Thank you, Mary. Patrick.
Patrick Lennon, calling in from Fairfax, Virginia.
Denise, that's everybody I see. I thought we had somebody else on the phone. Have I missed anybody?
Our caller, oh, well, wait, we do. The first caller is a member of the public. Let me unmute. Hi, there was somebody who just joined us on the phone. Can you state your name, please?
Hi, Denise. It's Christine Moore, and this was the only way I could get in.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what the problem is. So thank you for joining us.
Supervisor Stork was also trying to call in, and he can't call or video in either.
Okay. Let me resend the link to both of you. What's the error message that you're getting, Christine?
I put in my name and then I hit enter and it times out. It doesn't go any further than that. And he wasn't even getting that far.
Okay, I'll see what I can do, but you're on the line, but he can't call in either?
No, because apparently it's my code. It's not his code.
Yeah, it's okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I'll see what I can do, but you're on the line and I'll try to get him in now.
So
Thank you
Denise,
so
in the
much.
meantime, is it okay if I just continue with my official?
Yes, please do, Scott,
All right.
sorry.
And sorry about that, Christine. I can understand and relate to your frustrations from the last meeting on my end, but we'll try to get you squared away with the supervisor as well here briefly. So I think at this point, let's see here. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting, and that as such, FOIA's usual procedures which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated telephone line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 1-415-655-0001, access code 17954975547. It is so moved. Finally, it is next required that all of the matters addressed on today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and or are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved. Did I get everything, Denise? I think that's everything. All right, I'll have this memorized by April, I promise. All right, that requirement having been met, let's return these introductions. So again, I'll just go down the list as I see it here. So George, why don't you get us started off, sir?
Sure. My name is George Albert. I guess my affiliation is I'm a commissioner on the Human Rights Commission. I'm also a long time, I've been a member of the NAACP for about 10 years, and I've been involved in what we're now beginning to call, for lack of a better term, historic justice. And so, for example, for several years, I was a member of the executive committee of the Fairfax County NAACP, and I led the community advocacy to change the name of Jeb Stuart High School, which is now Justice High School. I spent 2.5 years doing that. I'm not a historian by profession or by background, but I am and I hate to say this to this group, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I am a student of history. And I got very interested in the history of history, which turned out to be quite relevant. And I used quite a few of the facilities, and our team did, Ms. Wickstead and Ms. Lipsey, quite a few of the resources in the Virginia room. Some of us spent hours researching what happened back during massive resistance in Fairfax County with the school board and naming schools. So I feel very, I don't want to say privileged, that would be the wrong word, but I'm very excited about this opportunity to contribute to this type of effort, particularly given the themes. I've spent a lot of time working with students in all the schools that which we've changed the names in Fairfax County. And I'm a big believer in the voices that haven't been heard or historically have not been heard in our community. I'm a retired executive from General Electric and I came to Virginia 25 years ago to join an internet startup company. I'm originally from Northern New York State. I'm an English major, but I don't think I've read more than 3 novels since I started reading history books about 25 years ago, because the history is much more interesting and exciting and dramatic than the novels. So anyway,
Thank you. Thank you, George. I think you'll probably find yourself in good company in terms of reading material with the rest of the folks on this group. And
So I'm very humbled.
Issues of equity and justice are fundamental to the work of this group and this commemoration. So we're really appreciative to have you join us. Thank you. Gretchen.
Thanks. I'm looking at the faces here on the Hollywood squares, and I think it's just Julie and George that don't know me very well. So so many of you know that by day I run the museums and historic sites in Alexandria, and then in my free time I support the history of Fairfax County on the Fairfax County History Commission. So it's all history all the time. And perhaps, George, you'd like to know that I lead it's called the Alexandria Community Remembrance Project for the city of Alexandria. So we had 2 known lynching victims of racial terror in Alexandria. And so this EJI initiative is through the Office of Historic Alexandria. And we are but one cog in the wheel in this racial justice, I don't know what to call it, project. But you know, there's different city initiatives, there's faith communities, there's a lot of work going on to make Alexandria a more equitable community. So I lead the history component of that. So if we can be a resource, you know, I'm giving a presentation on it at the Virginia Association of Museum Conference in a couple weeks.
I read the Historic Commission's report on Confederate names.
Good.
Not all 600 pages, but it's quite impressive. And I am beginning a project related to an advocacy related to that. So I would like to talk to you more about that sometime.
Sure. And actually, one of the authors of the report is Mary Lipsey down there, who has done great work in Braddock District. So anyway, thank you. I'm excited to be on this work group.
Gretchen and I have worked closely together in a variety of capacities, including the Virginia Association of Museums. So it's wonderful to have you join us, Gretchen. Thank you. Julie, you're next, please.
Great. So I'm Julie Lamacy. I'm the Director of Public Affairs at Mount Vernon. I'm celebrating my 5-year anniversary there this week. Yay! I came on as the director of the Mount Vernon Leadership Fellows. It's a college fellowship group. We brought college students from around the country to learn more about George Washington. So I know how to kind of tap into that young 20-something energy. But recently I was moved over into the media communications department. I have a background in communications. I was a direct communications director on the Hill. I've got events experience, media experience, all that kind of stuff that hopefully I'll be able to support this working group with some ideas and know-how. I'm practically a lifelong resident of Fairfax County. We moved here when I was quite small, right after the bicentennial. So I can't talk to the 1976, but I'm a product of the FCPS public schools. My daughters are there now. So we've definitely been grounded in this community and in the Mount Vernon community for the last several decades. And I'm just really glad to be part of this. And Gretchen, I do know you because you probably don't remember this, but my sister is Emily Pomodevella, and you introduced me to yoga when you worked at Gadsby's Tavern, and you had a yoga group like 20, 25 years ago. So it has impacted me.
Yes, we love Emily, yes. And I got to see her right before the pandemic started in February at the birthday ball at Mount Vernon.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Well,
exactly.
So we're having a national birthday celebration this Monday. Everyone tune in if you follow Mount Vernon on any of our social media channels. So that's how we're going to be doing the birth night ball this year.
Wonderful. Well, great, Julie. We are very, very glad to have you on the group as well. Laura.
I'm Laura Wickstead, the Virginia Room Librarian here, City of Fairfax Library, Fairfax County Public Library System. Glad, George, that we've been able to provide service for you. I'm excited about this project. The Virginia Room was really involved with the 275th Fairfax County anniversary. I think we did 40 or 50 programs. I was exhausted just looking at the list. Thankfully, well, I'm sure Mary, you'll say this. If you'd only known what you were getting into, you might have thought about not doing it, but that's how we all were. Yeah, I look forward to being of assistance and being a librarian. I was thinking if you all encounter books that you think should be in the system, I know our staff who orders books is really conscientious about trying to get a broad range of ideas, opinions, philosophies, current history, past, new histories about the past, whatever. So if you have any suggestions for titles, please shoot them to me and I'll see if we can get them as part of the collection. Thank you.
That's great, Laura. Wonderful. We all love libraries, so we very much appreciate what you and all those that work in libraries offer to us in our community. So thank you. We're getting a new one down here in Lorton, so I'm excited about that. Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz Maurer. I'm the Chief of Programs and Education at the new National Army Museum.
Liz, I'm sorry. It's difficult to hear you.
Is that better?
A little bit better, yes. Just
Okay.
leaning in towards the mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
All right. So I'm the Chief of Program and Education at the new Army Museum. Please come visit us when we reopen at who knows when in the future. I came to Alexandria and Fairfax County for the first time in 1976 for the bicentennial. I was 6, yeah, and we stayed at the Holiday Inn in Old Town, and we visited Gunston Hall, which is probably the first real museum I ever went to. I know Emily Coleman Dibella really well because we worked together at Mount Vernon, where I spent 6 years, and I was in charge of the education center design there. But I came to Virginia to go to graduate school at William and Mary, and I went across the street and got a job at Colonial Williamsburg. So I spent a lot of time right in like that colonial history kind of milieu. And I'm excited to be here because as an older person in museums, I don't actually get to do a lot of history anymore. So this will be kind of fun to do history again.
Great. We want this to be fun for everybody as well as meaningful. So that's a great point to remember. Thank you. Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Lipsey, and I'm a native of Fairfax County and grew up at the foot of my dad, who was a historian for Red Cross. So I tell people that I grew up with Clara Barton because that was his main part of research. Anyway, I loved history so much, I became a history teacher and taught middle school American history in Fairfax County schools for 30 years. Since that retirement, I continue in my love of local history and research and writing. And I'm also on the History Commission. I'm also a member of a nonprofit group called the Fairfax County Cemetery Preservation Association. Everybody thinks we're Fairfax County employees because we put Fairfax County there, but we're out there to preserve these abandoned or neglected little family cemeteries all over the county. And I keep very busy. So, and I'm really looking forward to this. Gretchen and I said 3 weeks before the 275th, we don't think we slept before that came off, but it really was a great honor to be participating with that.
Well, thank you, Mary. We're real pleased to have you on our group today and really glad to have your expertise part of our conversations. Patrick.
Hello, everybody. Patrick Lennon. I work for Visit Fairfax. I'm the Director of Marketing. So we're the destination marketing organization for the county. So we're the tourism people. So essentially, I tell everybody it's my job to let people know how to have fun and enjoy themselves when visiting from other parts of the world when they come to Fairfax. In my capacity, I get to talk about all the wonderful historic sites in the county, like Gunston Hall, Mount Vernon, Sully Historic Site, Colburn Run Mill, just all that good stuff. But another thing that I'm blessed to be able to do is to tell the stories of modern day Fairfax County and how people can enjoy themselves at some of our other amenities as well. I was fortunate to be able to sit on the committee that put together the 275th anniversary celebration for the county. And I also co-chaired the county's Civil War 150th commemoration. So I have a couple areas of involvement in countywide celebrations and commemorations. I know what a huge undertaking they can be, but I also know the importance of engaging all of the communities within Fairfax County to make it so that it truly represents the wonderful destination that we are. So I just feel blessed to be, again, working with this group to put on something similar, and I'm just excited. I feel like I've been here for 13 years. I grew up in a small town in Western Virginia, Hot Springs, Virginia, in Bath County. So it's weird because I feel like I know more about the history of Fairfax County than I do of where I grew up, just because of the wonderful experiences I've had here with these commemorations. So I'm looking forward to learning more, and I'm super excited about the potential of this commemoration and what it could mean to the tourism and hospitality industry as we start planning events and are being able to feature the wonderful sites that we have. So I look forward to knowing the people I already know better and knowing the people that I don't know that will just be in my new circle of friends. So thank you.
Great, Patrick. Thank you. Great to have you, and we certainly value and appreciate all you and everyone at Visit Fairfax does on all our respective behalves. So wonderful to have you with us. Denise, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Dressel. You've been receiving emails from me for a few weeks now. I am the History Commission liaison. I am a historic preservation planner in the Department of Planning and Development. I serve the History Commission, sort of going back and forth. I'm not actually staff to the History Commission. I just facilitate their interactions with the county, other county agencies. And let's see, what else about me? I am very excited about this project. It's something that I've never worked on a commemoration before, so I am excited to be part of this. And I will be mostly facilitating the work that you all do. So making sure that things are done on time, making sure you get into meetings, not very successful, not very successfully, but I don't have an IT degree. We are just kind of thrown into this virtual world. So I do apologize for the glitches that we've had. We'll get all of it ironed out. And by the end of this, we'll be pros at all of it. But I look forward to working with you all through this process.
Great. I'm happy to share a little bit about myself now, and then if Christine and the supervisor are with us, Denise will let them follow me, and if the supervisor is with us, then we can sort of seamlessly dovetail into any remarks he would like to make. But a little bit about myself. I am a native of Philadelphia and also was 6 years old, or 6 years old in 1976 during the bicentennial, and remember that time with great enthusiasm, and have long been interested in the colonial period. Actually, still remember my favorite museum as a child growing up was Franklin Court in Philadelphia, and I loved, if you've been there, I loved going into the underground area of the museum where they had the old rotary style phones, probably 100 of them, and on the wall in front of you were phone numbers for all of these historic figures associated with the founding period, Revolutionary War. And I love dialing up all those numbers and talking to Betsy Ross and the Marquis de Lafayette and George Washington and all these heroes of mine as a young person. And that was innovative, interactive museum technology at the time. Think about how far we have come. I've had the great privilege of taking my kids, now 12 and 15 there, and they think I'm crazy for thinking that's fun, because they have other ways of getting interactive experiences in museums now, but have been at Gunston Hall for about 8 years. I'm incredibly excited to be here at Gunston and part of the Commonwealth Commission focusing on the 250th, but also equally honored to be part of this effort and to work with all of you as we look forward to not just the report that we will submit in July, but also going work leading up to 2026. And I'm just eager to benefit from your insight and your expertise and be as helpful and supportive as I can in making sure we all collectively and a number of other sites and all the folks living and traveling to Fairfax get an opportunity to enjoy a great experience. And again, thank you for your service and for your participation, and just really pleased to be part of such an exceptional and talented group of folks. So Denise, are Christine and or the supervisor with us?
I believe Christine is still on the line. I have not seen the supervisor yet.
Christine, would you like to introduce yourself or say anything either on behalf of yourself or the supervisor?
Sure, he's still trying to, we're in different locations today, but I know he's still not able to get in on the video link. Since he wasn't able to be at the last meeting, he was just going to do a quick hello to the group. So maybe we will try it again at the next meeting. But I'm Christine Morin. I'm Supervisor Stork's Chief of Staff. I'm a native. I grew up in Springfield, went to all the local schools. My mom still lives in the same house that I grew up in. And I remember a little bit getting dressed up like Betsy Ross for the bicentennial. My dad made me do that, and I was a little traumatized, but longstanding resident, love the city of Alexandria and Washington, D.C. and Mount Vernon and being a part of all of that. And obviously I live in Lorton, and just being in the epicenter of so much rich and historical culture has been great, and something, that I share with my family and my kids as they've grown up too. So very happy to be a part of this. Kamala Spear, who is on our staff and our communications director, will be the primary contact on this group. She has been out, and we'll be back in for the next meeting, but appreciate, Scott, you and Denise, all the work you're doing to get this up and running and going, and happy to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your leadership and your public service, and certainly that of the supervisor as well, Christine. And if he is able to join us, Christine and Denise, by all means, we'll pause what we are talking about and would welcome an opportunity to hear from him. So Denise, if you would just keep me posted on if he's able to join us, and we'll adjust accordingly. But thank you, Christine, and the folks on your team there, and certainly a special thanks to the supervisor. That said, we find ourselves ironically which is phenomenal. Thank you all. We worked that out perfectly. And I'm very, very pleased that Gretchen and Patrick have generously agreed to spend some time sharing with all of us some insights and some lessons learned from some prior Fairfax County commemorations. And I know others like Mary have been involved with many, if not all of these as well. But what we're hoping to be able to do today is to hear from Gretchen and Patrick about what they've learned from prior commemorations, and then have a bit of an open forum dialogue about what those lessons may mean, or how we can apply some of those lessons to our work going forward. So thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Patrick. And I will turn it over to y'all. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Denise, can you send me the ball to share? Awesome. Okay. All right, we'll see how this goes. Patrick, Mary, and I have all worked together on the last couple of commemorations in Fairfax through the History Commission. And also Laura Wickstead has been our planning partner in crime for some of these as well. So it just occurred to us after the last meeting that perhaps everybody would benefit from seeing some of the work that we had done on past commemorations. I didn't want to go like way far back. So we're going to go ahead and start with the Sesquicentennial. Some of you may have been involved with the Jamestown commemoration as well. That's kind of when I first started on the History Commission. But in the interest of time, we're going to look at Sesquicentennial, World War I, and the Fairfax 275th. Okay, so feel free to jump in, Mary, Laura, Patrick. I will say I did kind of put a book on PowerPoint, but the reason is I didn't want to just talk. So here at least you have something to look at while we talk, okay? So the Sesquicentennial of the Civil War, I have to say from the get-go that I think Fairfax County, we did a great job. This was a very well orchestrated commemoration in the county with all the partners. Everybody just enjoyed working together, enjoyed the meetings, and we produced several years of great events, and we have some lasting products from that. So as many of you know, the Civil War, 61 to 65, of course, we started planning in 2010 and we wrapped things up in 2016. And we had a steering committee. And Patrick, if you want to explain the steering committee, you were involved in that more than I was. Do you want to just kind of go through that?
Just briefly, county, the way that it formed is the county executive brought Visit Fairfax and the Park Authority together as kind of like the two bodies to kind of get this thing started. And then from that point, we just expanded the steering committee to include both like historical experts and some of the larger sites and places that would represent numerous kind of like Civil War sites or activities. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, we're kind of doing what we're doing now, figuring out how we're going to create some kind of structure that would give people direction on what it is that they would actually be responsible for. And that led us to establishing the subcommittees, as you see here, one for history, one for educational, one to keep track of the money, and then one just to focus on bigger events that the county was going to put on. You know, the one thing that we had with the Civil War is there were specific moments in time throughout the commemoration years where certain events would be commemorated. So we had kind of like a timeline of the stories that we were responsible to tell. And Virginia really took the lead on this as well in giving us direction in terms of guidance, in terms of what this commemoration meant. So it sounds like they're kind of doing the same thing with what we're working on now, which is extremely helpful. The logo, which you see here, was provided by the state, and we were kind of the gatekeepers of said logo, so that anybody who wanted to do a program in relation to the Sesquicentennial would have to get written approval from the state in order for them to endorse it. So they vetted absolutely everything that was under this umbrella.
A lot of great products that came out of this commemoration, and we decided it was easier just to drop our spreadsheet in here that lists a lot of the products. One of the major things we did, and as a partner of the History Commission, and really that's how I got to know Patrick so well, is that we put up, what does it look like? 10, 11. Well, we committed to 11 Civil War trails markers, but there were even more put up over the years. So yeah, that was a huge part of what we did, right, Patrick?
It was, and it was an effort to include every supervisory district, every supervisor. It gave us a chance to tell a diverse array of stories, personal stories, not just all battles all the time. because we were trying to appeal to a wider audience of people who just may be interested in the history that occurred in their own backyard. And so we really got into really the kind of stories that the community would be interested in modern day. Like I said, we tried to avoid just strictly troop formations and battles like routes that different armies were taking, but really try to dig a little bit underneath that, and so people can understand how Fairfax County was really like essentially no man's land during the war. There were Confederate soldiers, there were Union soldiers, there were enslaved African Americans, there were free African Americans, and we really paid a lot of attention to all those stories, and I think successfully told all of them once this was said and done.
From the History Commission point of view, and Mary was a big driver on this, we created an educational outreach kit for elementary school students, and that is still available through the library system. We did a Civil War driving tour that is still on the website, but we also worked on some reenactments, a history conference, and we tried to attend as many events in the region as possible. So I think this kind of gives you an idea of what was going on. We supported other events as a Sesquicentennial Commission. And really the way this worked is, there was the Central Commission, but then all the local organizations that wanted to do events, we provided support, and sometimes we were able to give them a little bit of funding as well. So all said and done, we spent $56,000, and that was a combination of funds, some of it from the Virginia Tourism Corporation's marketing grant. And that is a source of money that we hope to have again. Scott, I think BTC will be looking to provide money for the 250th, right? I think so. Like I said, there's some lasting products. Obviously, we have these markers, the education kit, the driving tour. We also did a beautiful Civil War brochure that was very widely distributed throughout the county. And that, Patrick, is that still available on your website?
Yes, and when we produce it, there's more things that we could talk about now. We actually are thinking about publishing it because some sites close, some sites open, so it's a little out of date, but it's still available.
Okay. So in thinking about what worked well, like Patrick said, the Civil War had its own built-in timeline, right? We were simply following time. So 61, 62, 63. So that was an easy roadmap for us. Our subcommittee structure really worked. And I think that's really key, so that people worked in their little teams and then met and reported out. So it wasn't by the committee of the whole. And that's very different than you'll see when we look at the 275th. The marker program had something for every single supervisor, and that was very important to each supervisor, that even though, like, I live in the Braddock district and there's not as many Civil War opportunities for interpretation, like versus like the Centerville area, we still have several markers in Braddock. So Visit Fairfax was the central repository for the finances. Patrick, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so and we discussed financing this effort a little bit in the last meeting that we had, but essentially the county would allocate money. We would hold it in a restricted account, so that anything related to the Sesquicentennial that came through, we can have proper accounting protocols in place to handle the invoices and then pay it out through our accounting. And then each year of the Sesquicentennial, we would report back basically to the county executive, what was spent, what it was spent on, what was spent, when it was spent. And since we had a timeline of things that we wanted to accomplish, they could follow along and see that, in fact, the things that they were funding were getting accomplished. So that seemed to work relatively well. And again, it just helped so much from an accounting standpoint, that all the money was in one place, all the invoices funneled to one place, and we had no complaints. At the end of 6 years, I think we were within maybe like $10 or something of the money that was allocated versus what was actually spent. So we keep the financing and accounting tight. I think that was great. And then just the next thing, the website. We just created a special landing page to showcase all the events and everything that we were doing. And that seemed to work well also. So we were happy to help.
And I think we've already mentioned some of these things, but just the final thing is that, we looked to the talent on the committee and really relied heavily on that. And so think about your superpower when we go through and start planning this, because it really did matter that you were good at events, or you're good at marketing, or you're good at writing marker text, putting you in the right bucket. What would we have done differently? The education kit and driving tour are still available, but it's not getting any publicity. So it was kind of like after the Civil War, after the Sesquicentennial, that was it. But these things still exist. And, there's really not a mechanism to really keep pushing this out. So that's something to think about is, does it have marketing to back it up as it moves forward in time? We all want to engage the schools, and we try, but it's just like we never could quite engage them. And I think you'll see that with all of our commemorations. And some of it is just not getting to the right people, or we didn't start soon enough, or, the curriculum specialist wasn't engaged with us. So that is a hurdle that needs to be overcome sooner than later for this group. So I think, we want the students to be engaged. And I think at least Liz and Scott, we were engaged as students, right? And that really drove our love for history. So we want to do that for this next generation. And, we tried to include, as many diverse stories as possible. I will tell you that we got shut down quite a bit because people weren't interested, or the scholarship wasn't there. And I'd like to think that this is different now, right? I mean, there is a huge emphasis on equity and diversity and telling the full story. So that wasn't necessarily the case in, 2010, 2011. So I think we've come a long way as historians in messaging the importance of telling everybody's story. So, but it was interesting to look back at what we had tried to do and what worked and what didn't. So I'm going to skip over the 275th to talk about the World War I. We did this as kind of a one-shot event, the World War I commemoration on November 11th of 2017. And really the planning partners in crime are Mary and Laura here. We did a one day, like 2-hour event at the courthouse. And you can see our committee there was the History Commission, Special Collections, the Historic Records Center, and also the Sheriff's Department. And so we worked as a planning team. We had worked very closely as a planning team for the 275th. So this was easy for us, but we did a ceremony to mark the 100 years of World War I. And Mary, do you want to talk? This was really your baby. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I guess the one thing I wanted to say is that I'd say 90% of the population of Fairfax County don't realize we do have a war memorial, you see the scouts standing in front of that, and it's right on the courthouse lawn. And the first plaque that was placed on there is World War I. And since then, we have Korea and World War II plaque, Vietnam, and then an SAR group said, you know, there's one side left, so we put an American Revolutionary plaque there and put that on during the 275th. So it was special to have this and have people gather and hear speeches and all in the historic courthouse, and then move out and have a dedication ceremony at that war memorial.
So I just wanted to include some photos from that. And this didn't require a lot of funding. So it was basically financed by the History Commission, the Sons of the American Revolution, and some private donations. We had music and brochures and some other things to make it nice. A lot of in-kind contributions, use of the courthouse and the sheriff's department and things like that. We did have a very nice brochure that Mary wrote with the history. Laura, you may have been involved in that as well. I'm just forgetting, so I'll make sure you get proper credit. But very nice kind of, what do you call it? Like a commemorative, brochure. The only problem we had that day is that, honestly, everything happened on November 11th. And that's something to think about, right? Not everything in 2026 can happen on July 4th, right? So when you have all these things based on one date, it is a challenge. So like, for example, I had our World War I commemoration in Alexandria. We timed that so I could get to the one in Fairfax County, right? It's just the way it is. So, but that was lovely. And we had, of course, Congressman Connolly. We had several members of the Board of Supervisor and our local elected official for Fairfax County came, for the House of Delegates came, and some cute little scouts. The little Cub Scout there is mine, so we put him to work for the day. And as you all know, family and utilizing your family as your volunteer support is number one of what we do in the history profession.
And Gretchen, they are ringing the bell as we read the names of all the men there. And I forgot to say that during this time, I don't remember exactly when it was happened, but this SAR group and I worked, and we do have American Revolutionary War educational kits in the library too. These are hands-on kits. And quite frankly, I don't remember how many we made, but you can check them out and take them for classrooms, Boy Scouts, or whatever.
And if anybody needs these crocheted pockets, let me know. Can everybody hear me? Because
So Gretchen, you are fading out. I think if you turn your video off, you can still control your PowerPoint. We'll just listen to you. Do you advance your screen? So I couldn't hear what you were saying, Gretchen. I'm sorry. You're back. The screen is pixelating.
I keep getting a message, Denise, if it means anything about low bandwidth, and I'm not seeing anybody anymore, so I'm not sure if it's just on my end or if there's a bandwidth issue more broadly.
So Gretchen is having bandwidth issues. That's what the little triangle in her square means. And then, Scott, if you're getting a message personally, that's about your bandwidth.
I
can
see
see
it
everyone.
fine. It's everybody else's. Like I can see Julie, but that's it.
I can see everyone except Gretchen now. Gretchen keeps going in and out.
Yeah. Same
So
with me, George.
Yeah, if you, I can do the PowerPoint if you'd like me to. Are you back with us?
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, what, okay, is that better?
Better, yes.
Okay, sorry, it was just hard to figure out when I'm sharing where the camera off button is. I should have done that from the get-go. Okay, so we're better? I can see you now, that's a plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we're good. Thank you, Gretchen.
Okay, I figured Patrick would have already told you all about the 275th by now. So the 275th commemoration of Fairfax might sound like a weird thing to do, weird number, but a group had come together. Mary, why don't you tell the story of starting it off here, Mary?
Well, we had this wild idea, a couple of friends and I worked on things together to have a history fair. You know, that people could come and learn about the various sites we have in the county, etc. And honestly, I don't know how it grew from there, but eventually, you know, we talked to Sharon about it, and it became a huge commitment that we would have this 275th, and we selected the day in June of 2017. And starting in 2014, we thought we had lots of time, but we found out we really felt like we should have started at least 2 years earlier than that. So you can see again, we had this steering committee with representatives, and then we had other groups that came in for other meetings, including Ollie and Celebrate Fairfax. We met with them quarterly, and then we tried to reach out to all sorts of community groups like historical societies, Burke Historical Society, Great Falls Historical Society, and parks, and et cetera. Anybody who might have interest in helping to celebrate this 275th. So can Gretchen advance it? The projects, if you'd asked us at the beginning what we would be doing, I don't think we would have come up with all of this. But we had the logo and our signature event, which was, of course, was in June. We had lecture series all over the county. We had a very talented young man. Gretchen was talking about her family. Alex Bulova composed a musical, which was performed and directed by him down at the Lorton. We had a Fairfax Symphony written for the 275th, art exhibits, bus tours. We had Channel 16 do taping of history moments, again, all over the county. Gretchen was able to get the weights and measures and actually bring them out to the government center so people could see those. I found the Mason Mappers at George Mason was a group of geography students who actually were able to create a map, a hard copy map for us of our county markers. The city and towns of Fairfax participated, and we had proclamations and little ceremonies in like Vienna and Herndon. Again, we had Facebook page, and we also had groups that did partner events with us. Patrick, you want to add anything? You're muted, Patrick.
Sorry. Just on the previous page, the signature event was just one little bullet point with like everything else, but I feel like that should be like 20 font sizes more than the rest of them, because that was a significant undertaking that involved untold man hours and coordination and everything else. So that's pretty much all I would add. Is like the other things we kind of like controlled the timeline and everything else, but that by far I think was like the single most involved aspect of this whole thing. It was huge.
Well, I'll just give an example. We envisioned we had about 5,000 people who came that day, but we figured that maybe we had 1,000 people help planning us. I know I'm exaggerating that, but just to give an example, we wanted to have a petting zoo from Frying Pan, and the logistics of getting a place for those animals and that would be safe, and hand washing for kids, etc. We did it with, you know, their expertise and all, but that was just one little portion of this entire event. We had performers up on the oh, I've forgotten the name of the Mobile, the county Mobile place. We had performers, we had reenactors, we had craftspeople, we had educational facilities or educational activities, we had speakers in the courthouse. It was an all-day event. Food trucks, it was an army of people that actually got that together. Okay, next. I don't know, I can talk about the funding. Patrick, can you talk about that?
Well, it was a lot of it, as you can see here, like the History Commission contributed, the in-kind contributions. We got sponsors for some things. The county chipped in just because there was a lot of logistics. We held the event on the courthouse complex, the grounds of the courthouse complex. So there was like police presence involved and things like that that the county helped offset of what we needed. And that's why it was crucial for the sheriff's department to be a member of the planning committee. So I mean, that was essentially it. It was the same kind of deal with the accounting of the funding was important, but it was all accounted for at the end of the day, just for proper accounting protocols. I just can't stress that enough, that if the county feels strongly enough about giving money towards something, that just being the best stewards of that money is very important.
And I would say, you know, I mentioned about 5,000 attended, and Patrick also mentioned the sheriff's department. Inspiration came about because of all these people with their expertise and knowledge, and the sheriff's department developed a museum in their old part of the sheriff's building, and with a jail cell that you could look into, etc. And so there were offshoots that came about because of all this planning. And I still think how wonderful it was. We actually got Lord Fairfax to come from England and his wife, and he participated. And I love how one of the things he said was that he never thought he'd be speaking to those who fought against him. You know, and of course that was brought about a big joke. So anyway, I think we've lost our slide where we were, but there we go. What we would do differently, get corporate funding would be wonderful. This committee that led this did all of the event work, and as Patrick was saying, you know, moving hay bales and all this, we were the workers. We had help from Volunteer Fairfax on that day, but everything else was brought in and coordinated by this committee. And we certainly would like to recommend that we ask Celebrate Fairfax to help coordinate a signature event. And I think that's it. And then you see Gretchen with Lord Fairfax there, or the cardboard character. And this was the night before we had an event with Lord Fairfax. For the steering committee, we made some recommendations that we have representatives from the Arts Council, the schools, the Park Authority, Nova Parks, National Park Service, Celebrate Fairfax, and also a liaison from each supervisory district. So that they're the contact person. If we say we'd like to do something in the Sully district for the 2026, who do we contact? A defined hierarchy, so we know if a person wants to have a special permit to do something and have police there or whatever, who do they go to? This was one of the things we encountered in the whole planning of this. We were the Fairfax County, but all around us was the city of Fairfax. And so there was a lot of coordination between those two. And how we include the towns and city of Falls Church. Recommendations, form subcommittees early, the chairs, financial arm, same thing, visit Fairfax and Park Authority, be used for that. And start with engaging the larger community with periodic meetings. We talked about this yesterday, that when we had our meetings with the public and wanting to get to enthuse, I felt that we had more of concrete plans rather than what would you guys like, that it would be easier for them to jump in. But when we had a nebulous thing, we're going to do something for the 275th, what would you like? There wasn't a whole lot of reaction to that. So having specific, plans, like we want a concert or we want to have an art show or something like that, so they could jump in and say, oh, we could help with that. And involve all these community associations and groups and museums that we have there. We recommend using a Facebook page. It needs some talented people to manage it and create the regular content. Patrick was one of our persons who worked on that. And plan the signature event no later than 2022, because finding possible locations, we went round and round between having it at the government center and then realized that wasn't going to be a possibility, and then moved to the judicial center. Who knows in 2025 if there's any of the judicial center that could be used because of construction that's going on there. Start fundraising early, have a separate planning team for all the phases and parts of this, and again talk to Celebrate Fairfax. So I hope, Gretchen, I did okay. Oh, this is one thing. I suggested that it would be nice if we were to tell the county what is there in our county about that is associated with the Revolutionary War. What happened here? What sites are there? What were the historical figures? What markers, cemeteries, anything? So it's not a nebulous thing to them. They say, oh, it wasn't all in Philadelphia and northward or whatever, or what happened here with the Revolutionary time period. There we go.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Gretchen, Patrick, and Mary. That was a wonderful presentation. Very informative and very insightful. Thank you. One quick question. Would you be kind enough to send that out to everybody so we can have it as a reference, Gretchen? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. I think there's some great information in there that undoubtedly we will want to think more about in the coming days. So that'd be great if we could have a copy of it. So let me just open any initial reactions, comments, feedback, any particularly resonated. And obviously we'll have a lot more time to think through all that we've just heard and learned about, but anything that rises to the top of your minds immediately that we want to capture now? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought that, I think it was in the context of this 150th Civil War discussion. One of the regrets you had, or whatever you called it, which I thought was a good analysis, was that you did not really do much in terms of diverse studies. I know most of you know more about this than I do, but particularly as we look at the Revolutionary period and after that in this, we need to include things, you know, like Gum Springs, Springbanks, the Quander family, Tinner Hill, all those types of stories and how they influenced and what they meant to the county. And, you know, certainly people like, I'm sure some of you know Ed Henderson, right? People know Ed Henderson, yep. And, you know, people down in the Mount Vernon area down, and I always think of that as kind of that area, I know, you know, but for the Gum Springs and for the Quander family in particular, to kind of engage them in that. And there are probably others that I'm not thinking. I happen to have had a couple discussions unrelated to this with some people about those areas in the past week or so. And then the other thing on the schools one, engaging the schools, you know, I would comment on that, you know, I've spent a lot of time with the school board and Dr. Brabrand and his staff over the past 6 years during this advocacy to change school names. Most of that relationship, even though it was an advocacy type of situation, was cordial at the end of the day. So I'd be happy to get involved in either, particularly, those are two areas of interest that I think are important that really do interest me, those two things, you know, the diverse studies, even though I don't appear to be a good, you know, figurehead for that, but we can, you know, I don't know what else to say, but I've dealt with that before. But I think people like Ed Henderson and others would be happy to help us, I think. And there are others that I would think of through my NAACP life.
Thank you, George. That's all very helpful. Other thoughts or comments?
Just to that point that George just brought up, and it was something that Gretchen and Mary and I discussed when we were putting together the presentation. I think we just have to decide that, you know, there's the Revolutionary War sites and stories and things of that nature, but then there's kind of the other roadmap that Virginia laid out about, you know, what the founding fathers and what the revolution meant in terms of liberty and freedom, and how you know, these groups that had been fighting for freedom and civil rights since that point in time, like I feel like it's very important to get their perspective on what that means to them and how they have continued that fight long after, you know, the Revolutionary War ended. So it'll just be interesting, as George said, to engage those types of communities and get their feedback and vision on what that means to them today. And that's kind of like this whole thing of like tying the past to the present, which I think you brought up early on, Scott, in terms of the direction that the state was talking. So that's all.
I think that's right, Patrick. And I think one of the things that will be important for us all to contemplate will be, you know, I think we are all envisioning this as being a commemoration of ideas, more than about the war or any particular moment in time. So, you know, what George and Patrick, you both have said, and what we've talked about, and I think one of the things that will be interesting for us to contemplate is the boundaries, if that makes sense, or, you know, to what extent do we need boundaries? You know, because I was thinking as we were going through the presentation in terms of defining the assets, which has merit, but if we think about this as a commemoration of ideas that aren't that exist on a continuum of time, that's not bound by any one time or place, that exist on sort of this trajectory of fulfilling the promise of 1776 through justice and, you know, equality initiatives today, then theoretically the asset list is endless in many ways. So I do think we'll need to, unlike the Civil War and some of the other commemorations that we just heard about, being thoughtful about how we pursue this idea-based effort, but also have some sort of a structure that encompasses what we're doing and how we do it, I think will be important. Or maybe it's not necessary. Part of what we need to include in the report to the board will be how we plan to address that reality. So that's certainly something we should think more about, absolutely. Other thoughts?
You know, as you're saying that, Scott, it's like I can envision like the Virginias for wine lovers, for museum lovers, you know, for history lovers, that where Fairfax is, you know, revolutionary art, revolutionary ideas, you know, it could be, you know, it could be anything. I mean, I think we proved for the 275th that Fairfax County is the center of the universe, right? So, but yeah, I mean, keeping our eye on the prize, and in some respects, I think until the message and the words come down from the commission, you know, we can brainstorm, but I think that foundational level is going to be the backbone of what we do. So, you know, I think they'll have that wrapped up, next month, Scott?
That's my understanding, yes. In terms of that theme document that we shared, or that Denise was kind enough to send out.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that at the March meeting, that draft will be finalized, recognizing that it may likely still have some evolution over the next period of years.
As the retired history teacher, I immediately think of democracy and independence rather than revolutionary. And how did that affect all populations in Virginia? You know, we you know, I was reading about the African Americans who did fight in the American Revolutionary War with the promise that they would have freedom after the war, and then they were denied it. And so that's something that needs to be, you know, informed somehow, so people realize it didn't apply to everyone, you know, the democracy and independence.
Sure, absolutely. So it is about 10 of. Are there another one or two thoughts about the presentation that we just had? And then we do need to touch base on a few administrative next step type items in the couple of minutes we have left. Any other concluding thoughts, Gretchen, Patrick, or Mary, or any other feedback from others on the group?
I was just going to say one of the things that I think was a great benefit of these commemorations ended up being groups that normally didn't work together, got to know each other and formed lasting partnerships out of this. And I think it's just a great opportunity for these groups to get to know each other and form partnerships. And I think at the end of both of those commemorations, you had new friendships and relationships established that have gone on and flourished since that point in time. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to get people, you know, working together that could be mutually beneficial to all parties involved moving forward.
Very well said, Patrick. Thank you. I think that certainly will be something of value for all of us and for the county and for all those who experienced the commemoration. Absolutely. So let me, at this point.
Scott, may I interrupt? This is Laura.
Please do, Laura.
Say thank you. The presentation, thank you for putting that together. It was nice to see a quick review of lots of hard work. I think one of the slides suggested that we cast a wide net to bring in a lot of people to participate in this, and it would be nice if this committee was itself more diverse. So, you know, that would be something to think about. Gretchen, you had some thoughts about how, I guess it was the Civil War events. There was a bigger group, but then people broke into subgroups that were very productive and then could report back. And that's a way of dealing with the larger unwieldy group. But just seeing this sea of lovely but white faces seems incomplete and inadequate for this event.
No, I think that's very, very fair and very well stated, and I'll touch further on that in just a minute, Laura. Thanks for
Okay,
raising
thank
that
you.
question.
Yep.
But before I address the last few sort of next step administrative items, Denise, I just want to double check. Was the supervisor able to get on? Should we give him an opportunity to say anything?
I never saw the supervisor get on. Christine, do you have any work update?
No, he's not on, and the legislative committee starts at 4. So I think Abdul was trying to help him get in as well, and he had the same issues.
Sorry about that. We'll figure it out for the next time. I did want to mention one housekeeping item, Scott. I sent the minutes out to everybody. We need a motion on the minutes so they can be posted.
Yes, we do. So why don't we do that first, and then I've got 3 other housekeeping items. So may I get a motion to accept the minutes? Thank you, Denise.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thumbs up. All right, awesome. There you go, Denise. Thank you. The other couple of housekeeping items on my list are one point. Since the last meeting, I did hear from several of you who raised that very question about, is it possible to augment this group with others? And obviously not just from an ethnicity perspective, but also just from an expertise and collaboration perspective. And Denise, you was kind enough to ask Christine and the supervisor just to get confirmation of whether that was something that was possible in the context of how the board matter was framed, and it is. So we are able to add other people to this group. So I think one thing that I would appreciate your feedback about are obviously suggestions, but also I think we want to be sensitive to size. We don't want a group so large at this point that it gets a little bit difficult to manage. But if you would think about who else would be good to include, we still do need a representative from George Mason University, which I am working on. That is referenced in the board matter specifically. And I am working on that one. But if there are other folks that you would like to recommend, Denise, what do you think? Send them to you or send them to me? What would be your preference?
I don't know your schedule, Scott, but I am more than happy to take recommendations, compile them, and then distribute them as necessary.
That would be awesome. So if you have thoughts, send them to Denise. And then Denise and I, on the Monday after each of our meetings, Denise and I in the morning to go through anything administratively or otherwise that we need to make sure we follow up on. So Denise, on Monday, let's come up with the best plan for how we will address possible additions as the suggestions come in, if that's all right. There was also the question at the last meeting about budget, and we have gotten confirmation, and certainly what the supervisor and Christine have suggested, which I think makes a lot of sense, is that we think about any potential budget request being the mid-year request, which Denise, correct me if I'm wrong, would be due in September. I don't have the email in front of me.
No, it was the mute button. So it would be voted on in September.
Okay, all right, thank you.
With the July report.
Okay. So we've got a little bit of time, and I think there was some comments at the last meeting about how we really need to know more about what we're proposing before we can make what we think would be a successful and appropriate request for funds. So that is just a point of clarification from our last meeting. We will operate with the goal and the objective of compiling our report, but also thinking about a potential funding request that we would put forward later in the summer. And then the last thing on my list is just wanting to confirm that this meeting schedule works for everybody. Continue to do it. It's the third Friday. No, what are we? Yeah, we're the third Friday, right? The third Friday of each month at 2:30. Several folks had requested after the last meeting that it be later in the afternoon. And this is the Friday after the Friday that the Commonwealth Commission meets. So this is a good timing from that perspective. If things come up at the Commonwealth Commission, we've got a week to sort of see how we may or may not need to incorporate that into our own conversation. So just a thumbs up. Does this general meeting schedule work for everybody? I just want to confirm that. All right, terrific. Wonderful.
If I can just say, for my coworker, Chris Barbershak and I alternate Fridays off. So we'll take turns attending.
I think
that
that's
will
just
work.
fine. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Denise, did I forget anything?
Well, just down the road, I wanted to mention, Laura had brought this to my attention, that the third Friday in June, June 16th, will actually be a county holiday for Juneteenth. So
It's a Commonwealth holiday too, actually.
So we will be off, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to
All
it, I
right,
guess.
so we'll just all bear in mind that we'll have to adjust for June, but certainly for March, April, and May, we'll stay on this schedule. And Denise will be sending out those meeting announcements with the links as she has in the past, which we appreciate. All that said, once again, thanks to Gretchen, Patrick, and Mary for a wonderful presentation. Any other concluding thoughts, or Denise, did I forget anything that I need to do, read, or say?
No, I think you're good, Scott. Thank you.
All right, I'll get the hang of this. I'm in so many meetings, but I don't have to actually read a 3-page script in any of them. So this is good. I'm broadening my horizons.
Welcome to the county.
Any other concluding thoughts? Well, thank you all. Thank you, Christine. Give our regards to the supervisor. Best wishes to y'all for an enjoyable weekend, and we will be in touch and look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thank you.
Good to see you.